Good evening. My name is BindiBindi. Welcome to another episode of Business News.
Good evening. My name is True007. Welcome.
And mine's Jesse. So in 1717, England went on the gold standard and followed by Netherlands in the 1818. Very interesting. 100 years later, the West Indies Company, a very, very powerful organization. And then in 1870, a host of nations rushed to join this club. So what happened? Hot money flow was not common then. Currency devaluation for competitive advantage was very rare. International trade increased. Deficit account and balance of payment problems kind of resolved itself over time. Capital mobility was very high. Yep. And exchange rate was very stable. Liquidity was in abundance. So is this a new block that we are hurtling towards? This new block of gold? Bindi loves gold. I loves gold. 007 loves gold. No, 007 loves cryptos and digital currencies. So that's why today's topic. Are we heading towards SDR, the goal, or is it something more nefarious and insidious? And let's hear what Mr. Moscow has to say for us before we comment. Producer, please.
人民币挑战美元，俄罗斯俄乌战争落下帷幕，然后你看看西太阳跟美国的较量的下一个战场，从中东欧要到中东，中东完了到非洲亚洲东盟已经在我囊下了，是吧？所以这次人民币，俄罗斯宣布人民币使用人民币支付系统，七哥2017年说的。我2015年、16年和美国的政府官员都说过，没有一个人相信会发生的，没有一个人。他现在就发生了，就这么短的时间，1000多天，一共1000多天。西太阳对这次俄乌战争，俄罗斯的乌克兰的侵略战争，推出上合组织，推出人民币，俄罗斯国家第一个国家使用人民币结算。我告诉大家，你记住，只要共产党不倒，在未来的6个月200天以内，会超过10到20个国家会加入，甚至更多。所有在亚太行、亚洲建设银行所有贷款的国家都得加入，你不加入，把你钱给要回来，是吧？据我所知，咱已经是达到70-80个国家了吧？亚投行、亚建行上合组织、东盟，你都得加，你不加咱就完了，不跟你玩了然后这个加入以后是多少国家呢？70-80个国家，甚至到100个国家。这100个国家加入到人民币支付的话，会最起码有10国、20国脱离美元，就原来跟随美元的脱离美元，改成一揽子货币计划。一揽子货币计划就是既有俄币也有日元也有这个人民币可能就不跟随你美元了。这对美国是治。
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's a Monday. Pardon me. All right. So the renminbi has been weaponized and ready for launch. Apparently, 70 to 80 countries are ready to accept renminbi as a trading currency. And how are they going to weaponize this? After this, we'll comment after this video. Producer, please.
人民币挑战美元，俄罗斯俄乌战争落下帷幕，然后你看看西太阳跟美国的较量的下一个战场，从中东欧要到中东 中东完了到非洲啊，亚洲东盟已经在我囊下了，是吧？所以这次人民币，俄罗斯宣布人民币使用人民币支付系统，七哥2017年说的。我2015年、16年和美国的政府官员都说过，没有一个人相信会发生的，没有一个人。他现在就发生了，就这么短的时间，1000多天，连一共1000多天。西太阳对这次俄乌战争，俄罗斯的乌克兰的侵略战争。
All right. So there we go. If you can bring all of us back, please, producer, please. We have BindiBindi and True007. Go back onto the same screen, please. All right. So there we have the first word that caught my ear was Middle East, and we know that's one area which Bindi is pretty well versed in, and of course True007. True007 watches that like a hawk because of the US petrodollar. Now, Bindi and the 007, would you like to give it a go? Comment on this, please. The new bloc, the new currency.
Previously, Maltzko has already told us that Saudi has signed up to using our renminbi to trade for oil. In fact, a quarter of Saudi's oil at the moment is being traded in renminbi, so it is nothing new. So, question is whether other than selling to China, who else will use renminbi to pay for petrol? Question. What's the difference? Because renminbi is just as controlled, whereas at least with the USD is market rate, isn't it? We know that it's getting more expensive, but at least it's market rate. Whereas renminbi is completely manipulated. Does that give anybody else an advantage other than China? 207, what do you think?
Well, since CCP goes through his so-called China Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, and Asian Construction Bank, remember, and then linked with One Belt, One Road. And so far, she has wiped out, pardoned the debt, basically give the money away to 18 countries somewhat. 18 countries' debt doesn't need to be paid to China. Okay, so it's zero debt. Yeah, 17 countries. You think about it, those countries there must be a condition imposed. So if you come to a basket together with 100 countries, within which, as we see in Maltzko's video, 20 countries are decoupled from US dollars, where originally are very close friends, such as, even military allies, for example, Japan, Japanese yen, and I can see of France, France sling, and also English pound, maybe not. The new prime minister may not want to do that, but I think we know just definitely German mark is going to be also in the basket as well. Because why? Because so far they never really strategically planned ahead. So what the trading situation is, so heavily rely on the energy of Ukraine supply, so heavily relied on Chinese market for Japanese BMWs and so on. I saw just yesterday, BMW is gonna be already signed a big deal, supply the new energy, new battery, for battery powered cars to the top player in China, battery players, 2 of them. So, when the countries have in trade, normally, when you're naturally trading your strengths with other people's strengths together, if you are mutually needed in terms of commodities and services and supplies, technologies, that is a natural trading. This is the best for both countries' interest, national interest-wise. So a leader will have to, with no choice, make such a rational decisions, and we saw that. So that will make this new bloc, so-called, okay, just new terminology, new bloc, new trading bloc results in currency intensity. Such you said that those old India countries start from England and from ocean-based sailors such as North European countries. Okay, Holland, for example, when you start trading teas in India, what happens? You're trading tea and you also trading opiums in China, and you bring the silk and so on away. This has been ongoing for a couple of thousand years, at least 2,500 years. So this is a natural trade without the politics. People just find a way of doing business the best. So if you go to China, produce all the textiles, and the other country with the advantage with technology so far, they have wherever they've been invested in China or they stolen the technology. I mean, these are now become common technology, not high skill. But however, with the blood, sweat money, China still, maybe maintain within these 100 countries, maintain number one supplier of consumables. Look at Coles and Woolworths in Australia. This is still made in China, at least more than half of the stuff, even teacups, okay, coffee cups, there's textile, China, and so on, and you name it, and food, a lot of food, made like noodles, and so they're all made in China still. So no matter what it is, so this is a fact we have to accept from history until now. As a result, China exported, supported as the source high line of the supply chain. Those countries doesn't have. So they have to rely on that. Well, you talk about decoupling, of course you can. It's going to take a time. So as it is, when we look at about the US dollar against the rest of the currencies, you know what happens? Between 30% the Japanese yen into 20% of euro. Okay, you know what happened? The purchasing power parity has been shifted. Okay, largely concentrated in the United States. So we call that have a haircut, okay? Lawn your turf. This is already happening. So a result, the other countries, the energy price so high, they have to deal with a problem of inflation, food prices, energy prices. So all that, if you don't solve that problem, there will be a revolution in your own country. So given trade, demand needed, okay, supply chains are mutually, intensive and inclusive, energy strengthening of the energy supply plus the rest. So Russia, led by China, Russia, okay, and the rest of the Middle Central European countries, also the old European, Union participants, especially Germany and France. So when these countries are joined together with the other 18 countries being wiped out of debt, and oil supplies, and Russians' supply of energy, which is China needed the most, and Russia need just about everything produced in China for consumables. So I ask you a question, Jesse, how you can break this natural pattern of trading, therefore the natural formation of the new basket, so-called the new bloc, okay, and the new reserve currencies led by Chinese digital money. Back to you, Jesse.
Oh yeah, I think you just you touched on a very important point, because we understand that the US officials have been really, really busy crisscrossing the world, trying to corral a lot of governments, SWFs, to keep on buying their T-bills, and of course, and then to keep using USD, as a major reserve currency. But then also we are looking at the devaluation, and I'll come back to this question, which I want to ask you guys, devaluation. If renminbi were to devalue about, say, 10%, 15%, because Ms. Mouse was saying renminbi to a dollar would be about $7 to $8. What will be the impact be, on the world economy, on US particular, and Europe? Do we want to focus on US and Europe at this juncture? And Bindi has brought up a very, very interesting question, which is who else will use renminbi to pay for oil? And that one, I think, has to go back to the trade. One is we are at a conundrum now. Because I'm holding US denominated loans, so therefore I don't mind US dollars dropping, because then my repayment once US dollars drop, my repayment, assuming mine is a holds up, right? Or I'm using renminbi holds up. Therefore, then I can pay a little bit lesser. And then because of trade, and if my major trading partner is China, then you're kind of in a position that you go, I've got really nothing to lose, except for the long arms of the US, and then of course with the military might of the US, because at the end, who whether you can hold the currency or not, a lot of it depends on the military might, which wasn't the case during gold, interestingly. Now, so producer, if you can bring back the screen again. So we are assuming world trade, all right, currently, assuming we have ASEAN countries, the 10 ASEAN countries, assuming we have the BRICS without the B and the S, all right, Brazil and South Africa, and then we have Russia, $1 trillion economy. We have the Eastern and Central Europe, and we have the SCO's countries and the African countries, right, which are rich in African countries are rich in minerals, by the way. A lot of them are very rich in minerals. Diamonds are used for industrial purposes. We know that beyond the cosmetics. All right. Now, if let's say we add up all these, and conservatively, I'm putting the number at $30 trillion. So we know the world's GDP is at about what, 100 trillion. So assuming, if this grouping starts at a low base of say 25 to 30 trillion US dollar, it is not a small block. It is actually a very convincing and persuasive block just by the sheer size alone, right? In terms of trade. Now, what do you reckon that the US has anything up its sleeve to stop this? Because for the life of me, I don't see how countries that can benefit from the devaluation of renminbi, therefore, the dropping of the US dollars, to say no to this. Your view, please. Devaluation, $7 to $8 impact, and then would countries say no to this?
Yeah, Sunflower, can you bring these slides? Okay, this is what we're talking about. Okay, the RMB, the slides for the RMB. Okay, we know the other currencies all different. Yeah, this one. Okay, this is a particular one. You remember now. You can see let's say 6.9274, almost close to 7. Okay, close to 7. Basically, RMB, from whatever this started, you can see 6.3 to 6.9. That is 10%. So RMB has been devaluated by US dollars 10%. But you remember, the Russians with the US dollars, it doesn't change much in the past 6 months average. And then what is changed? The major trading partners such as France, France and Germany, okay, 2 major European engines of the economy and heavily rely on China trade. So they use euro, then the euro is already going down 20%. So by RMB lose 10% against euro dollars. Euro lost 20%. But when the RMB come to place, you know what happened? If RMB as it is drop another 10%, which is 6.7 or no 7.7. If they drop to 7.7, what happened? The rest of the trading partners, so-called the basket of the currency, okay, the new bloc led by China, and then follow Russia and the rest of the countries joined by the by the credit wiped out the countries, benefited from China's one belt, one road without paying anything, blah blah together. You know what happens? They actually pay 20 to 30% less. Japanese will pay 30% less. So it will bring the price, as China supplied a lot of the stuff, okay, into in the supply chain. They supply the consumables, which is very, very largely, the export, okay, content. But that make them relatively cheaper by using the currency they already have. So how many? 30% to 20% cheaper. Any person, if you are the minister of the country, prime minister of the country, or the president, if you don't do that, it is so attractive you'll pay 20 to 30% more if you follow the US dollars and then with that block. This is a reality. So, but consider the dynamics. I think the US will soon suss that out. And then after the Federal Reserve had enough turfing card to the point, okay, in the last program, two program, I said, not toward the end of next year. I think from March, they would have the Feds, the chairmen of the Feds, different chairman, local chairmen, they have to start to spread the words, whisper that out to say, hi, we're going to reduce the US dollars, okay, index by reduce the Fed's rates. If they don't do that, they're going to lose that war. I just stop here. Bring everyone back on the screen, please. Flow. Okay.
Bindi, your thoughts.
Everyone.
So this is actually
Bindi,
reducing U.S. interest rates is actually what people have been talking about. So the timeline people were talking about is possibly 12 months, 12 to 18 months that U.S. interest rate is going to come down. When interest rates comes down, is that going to be too late? Is this going to already, is renminbi going to be taking a big market share? I would think at the moment not, because Moscow has already said, as many there are nations participating in the new bloc, they are still the poorer brothers of the world. The major GDP are still the fewer, the other 80-something% are actually in the Western Bloc. So the Western Bloc, if they are not participating in this new reserve currency, how far can the new reserve currency renminbi go? That's one thing. And the second thing, of course, it is venturing outside this economic model of just talking about currency. You go beyond, technology and other things. So that in itself, it just makes this new alliance, a new bloc, very fragile. As intelligent as it seems, it possibly will not going to last. Is not going to last long. So this is possibly the answer why Moscow said that we are going to see the end of the CCP by the end of the year or beginning of next year. So let's bring the guys back to see what they think.
Yeah, I like what BindiBindi said about the kings in the armor. Actually, where's the it could be a block, they could form a block, but it is fragile. And I do want to say this because in 1967 to 1987, we were kind of in a similar situation with oil shocks, with very, very high inflation, and in fact also with stagflation over the 20 years period. And during this period, there was also a currency war, which was settled by what Mr. Moscow shared with us, by the two accords. One is the Plaza Accord, and the other one, the Louvre Accord. But back then, you have a military might of the US versus, of course, the USSR, but now you have a considerably weakened USSR and a much larger China that has not very good intent, and that's why I thought yes, I agree with the 2080s rule. In this instance, the geopolitics comes in also, and that's why when he kept saying that like Russia will disintegrate, and I thought, oh wow, what a big statement. And I thought, oh, hang on, what are the fragile parts of this bloc? And I thought, yeah, and that kind of brings back the question about Bindi asking, who else will use renminbi to pay for the oil? Because that would drive up the value of renminbi, meaning renminbi will appreciate, right? And therefore, if let's say they increase the interest rate, will someone then go, all right, I will park my money in renminbi, withdrawing from the US dollar, or I will sit on the fence and hedge both sides. That's my view. Producer, can you bring us back, please? But the key point is 6 to 12 months. That's very quick. That's like, wow. This year. Or next year, that is technically 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
007.
I think the timing is probably, during the 6-12 months, so many unpredictable factors, as we know. Okay, as you point out, Jesse, the Russia is going to be disintegrate, and also the result is after being once they start disintegrating, I think some countries will go with the US. Okay, that's for sure. And then what happened? I mean, they got plenty of resources, and that the Putin will disappear. So what happened is, I think the supply of the energy, the oil pipe, the 5 pipelines might be reinstalled to normal without interruption. When that happens, you know what happened? So and there's no much great lead for those countries to be energy, gas and energy dependent on the Russia. Because since Russia become part of the European countries, okay, the majority of the federal state in the old Russia, USSR before. So that's one of the factors we could crack down. Because Xi Jinping is heavily relying on Russia. Just imagine Russia, those big oil supplies, they started making the same problem as they did to Germany and France. They're not going to supply it for 3 days or 3 months. Then the Chinese energy deficiency will be there. So if we use the old economic model without considering space technology, and just use the past 60 years as a model, this trade might be okay. So people feel comfortable, they got some clothes to wear, food to eat, and then the petrol to drive the car, and then they use the 2nd generation mobile without the hook to the start, but they're gonna Star lines anyways, Starlink. So, and then another thing is, when that happens, remember the second factor is once the people know the truth in China, okay, through the Elon Musk, Starlink, and with that other 10 countries, you know what happened? When people are waking up, it will bring a huge revolution, and act together, for example, protest together. I think within 1 or 3 months, the whole country will disintegrate in China as well. You understand? And it's like a pandemic. So when Russia disintegrates to 30 different states, and some go with this, and they maybe formulate their own unions between 2 countries, 3 countries, and then with the East European countries. Okay, when that happens, they trade together. So this so-called the new baskets of RMB digital currency will disintegrate as well. Plus, China won't have this energy backup from the Russia, because those guys will go with the United States. You know what happened? And plus, Russia disintegrate, and Putin is a man's figure, loved by all the Chinese women and Chinese men as well. He is really tough, okay, handsome, do what he say, and he can still wrestle, and also still drive the fighting jets. I mean, all that are made up later on we find out through my school, right? So just the image propaganda. When that image disappears, all the Chinese Xiao Feng Hong is going to snap their own face again and go to the heaven. So when that happens, plus the new information, for example, what happens, they're going to get the iPhone and suddenly start to see what we are talking about. That's why that is so valuable. And what the Stephen K. Bannon's War Room and the Voice American and so on, all the freedom-loving countries' propaganda or broadcasting going directly to the handset. I think after 10 days, I think a lot of my friends in China, I don't think they can go to sleep anymore, because now we're talking to them, they don't have anything to verify what is true or not. When they see so many sources and all dropped into the iPhone, you know what happens? You've been cheated for the last 33 years, 73 years by the CCP. You've been enslaved like an animal enslavalism. That's what it is, okay? And then you see these guys supposed to be, supposed to be working class. They're supposed to serve the people. You know what happens? They never serve the people. These people serve them. They can sleep any woman, okay, any beautiful woman they wanted, but you can't. Okay, if you do it, then you'll be charged. So they can sleep and they can make money in so many ways. If they want like a $1 billion Wang Jishan or your secretary of the province, Chinese Communist Party, they can just easily get it done, and the money is overseas in the personal bank account. Not even in the wife, but in the mistress bank account. They have like maybe some guys have like 300 mistress. They have 3 bought like in Hangzhou. One of the guys bought a CCP's card. They bought 300 houses. Each house have a mistress and have 1 or 2 kids. And someone always give the money, so they got plenty of money. So this situation, when the truth is unreal, is known by all the Chinese people, plus we talk to them, you know what happened? Doesn't take us very long, because once they stayed up, and then we can work together. They can work together. For example, you know, have the 100,000 cars in the city main street, the whole city will be gone. Okay, it can't function, and people know why. And then everyone will talk to each other. Chinese people are very community based. They can talk to each other. That's why they do these, nuclear testing to prevent the people talking to each other. All right.
Yeah.
This is why.
Okay.
So
I
CCP
think it is fair to conclude that actually CCP has many balls in the air, but they're only focusing on one. That's the reserve currency and the new Bloc ball. They forgot all the other balls. And one of the latest balls that have surfaced is the human rights ball, right? So all these balls are all up in the air, and they're only trying to catch the reserve currency, because it's a delusion that they're wanting to achieve, that Xi Jinping wants to achieve. And because he only has one focus on that one ball, forgot about everything else. So I think our time has come to an end. Maybe Jesse, you would like to close?
Yep. So I'll just throw a monkey wrench into the works for audience and for every one of us, and we're all close. So the monkey wrench is this, right? Which is a point which BindiBindi brought up early on in the program, and it was a fantastic point. The point being, we understand that that it is engineered. It is a plan 30 years in the making by the CCP to crash the U.S. economy, to weaken the U.S. dollar, and of course to divide and conquer, to divide the U.S. As a nation. So that's the backdrop. And having said that, they have been Russia and China. They have been actively buying gold. We go back to gold. They have been buying gold. In fact, Mr. Moscow told us they bought nearly 1,000 tons of gold just recently, right? And there's a reason why the U.S. Don't keep their golds in the Fed banks. They keep them on air bases and army base. So which means the next step that we can kind of look at it and go, within the next 6 to 12 months, all right, they are going to go, all right, my renminbi will be pegged to the gold, be it 20%, 30%, or they could even say peg at 40%, 50%. How many can say no by then? Not many. And what will the US do? That's why this 6 to 12 months period. Watch the gold. Gold has been going sideways. Very interesting. It shouldn't be going sideways, but it is. And we close with this. Last words, guys. Last words.
I think gold will not appreciate, because Moscow said if gold appreciate, what will make USD? Ultimately, it is not just a question of gold being limited, so is Bitcoin being limited, but we know that is not the case. So ultimately, I think history says that there will be war to reshuffle the cards. 007, what is your last word?
I think there be always a war. Is the clinic war is the best. I think this time this will be a domestic war between different, different clubs of the CCP. When the whole information is already there, I think people in China know, and people in these senior levels know. When they fight, it is a fight of life and death. I think they're going to fight very hard and then dissolve China as well. Domestic war.
So yep, next 6 to 12 months, watch this space as we bring you more exciting updates. And that's it for today.
Thank you very much for watching. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Fla.